And welcome back, everybody. As you may recognize, we have Nightmare Medic with us again. We have been meaning to do a part two for quite a while, and in classic EMS fashion, we have no time. So here we are. What's up, buddy?
How you doing, man?
Good, good. Aside from all the drama this week,
Yeah.
what we were just talking about, but
Yeah, I feel it.
it's going to be that way. I think we've beat that horse to death pretty well.
Yeah, I agree.
But anyway, so last time we talked, and for those who are watching or wondering, we had technical difficulties, which is why I got cut short. We were talking about unions. You're, obviously in a part of the country that does have unions for EMS. I'm in one that does not. So, I grew up traditionally not a huge fan of unions, but I realize that they are necessary in some industries, and I kind of think they probably are in ours too. But I guess I just kind of want to go back into yeah, people like to talk. They like to throw around the thing, oh, unions are great, unions are wonderful, or they're horrible.
hmm
For you, how overall, in a general experience, how has that been being in a union?
Yeah, so I'm fairly new to my union, and this is the first union job that I've had. And some of my coworkers and I were actually just discussing this last night on shift. And union comes up, and it's like, oh, big bad word because unions are scary. And I thought to myself, why? Like, why is a union scary in EMS? And the answers that we came up with is because management can't do what they want, or the higher ups, even above them, because sometimes their hands are tied too. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that as, like, let's face it, the culture of our job is that the people in charge are the ones that make all the decisions, all the rules, and then they can do whatever they want, policies to fix problems. And that's a huge like cliff to fall off of, is to continue to make policies to fix problems. So the union helps us stand our ground with some of that, so that we can say, hey, this policy actually doesn't make sense. It might make sense from your desk, but it doesn't make sense to those of us out on the road. So we're not going to stand for it. Or, hey, you're holding us to this expectation, but you're not standing up to your expectations. Because, in a union, there's a mutually agreed upon contract, and it's very black and white. And there's no room for interpretation, if that makes sense. Because that is one of the challenges that we face, is that people tend to try to interpret what's in the black and white in the union contract versus just taking it at face value. So it's nice to be able to have the voice at the table. And there are times when the union's not great. And there are times when it is fantastic. And those times of saying, hey, there's no room for interpretation. This is what the contract that you, me, and everybody else agreed upon. This is what it says. If we're going to set this precedence where you can go outside of, or you can interpret however you want, then so can we, which generally doesn't end well for anyone, both sides, either sides, whatever you want to say. So the union for me has been a refreshing look into the operations side of EMS. It doesn't really affect us clinically at all, but the operations side, which is a big part of our job, the day-to-day, grind of things, and the holidays and the pay and all that kind of stuff. That's where it's helpful. And when we have a voice at the table full of all the big wigs, and, for my service at a county level, because we have, county supervisors and boards and all that kind of stuff involved in our stuff, because we are a county service. So it's been really nice to have that voice, good, bad, or ugly. And not everything about a union is pretty, but
Yeah.
when it's all said and done, there's no emotion to it. And you could do things without emotional reaction. Like, hey, there's a process for that. If you want to fight that battle, do it the right way. Otherwise, we don't care. So for us to fight those battles, as long as we're following step by step by step to the T, then we have the absolute right to fight it, not just the privilege to fight it. We have the right to fight those things.
Now, obviously, you have legal representation with a union. What are kind of the less commonly known benefits to a union, and specifically benefits that affect EMS?
That legal representation is huge, right? Because when it comes down to it, without a union, it comes to two entities butting heads about something, and the one with more rank on their collar usually wins, and that just is the reality of everything without a union. Now, with a union, that's not always the case, because we can, take those processes. So, for example, we file a grievance, and they respond, and then we respond to their response. And if we're still not at an agreement at that point, then they can take it to arbitration, and the judge figures it out. So it's kind of those things where, like, hey, we don't think this is right, and then the other party's like, well, we do think it's right, and we can't come together. Like, well, we're prepared to continue this and let a judge figure it out. And then whatever is said, and that can work good, bad, or ugly in both favors, because we could get to a judge and not get what we want, but also we can get to the judge and the judge is like, hey, that makes sense, and you guys, you know, take the steps to rectify that. So in the past, or our culture growing up, and you've been in this culture too, they said the ones with the rank on their shoulders, they make the laws and the rules, and that is what it is. So I think that's unionizing should not be thought of as a bad thing in EMS. I think it's 100% protecting yourself and your rights as an employee. You have rights as an employee that in our culture for the past 20 plus years, 30 years or something like that just hasn't been a thing. And so it's really nice to be comfortable in the fact that I do have rights to grieve things that I feel aren't right, or practices that are coming out that are against our mutually agreed upon contracts. So I don't know if there's any other way to say that.
Uh-huh.
If we don't, if we can't come to an agreement between the two parties, then it goes to a judge, and a judge is a completely unbiased party. You know what I mean?
So is it the kind of thing where it's strictly for like contractual employment related things, or does it also extend to like if you have, and I'm sure this is a shocker, that I've had conflict with management before in my career. Is it the kind of thing that helps out on those smaller scale conflicts as well, or is it just the bigger picture employment stuff?
I'm not sure I totally understand the question, but I'll try here. Go
Well,
ahead.
no, so like I'm trying to think of a better way to explain it. Like where you have an issue with a supervisor, and whether it's you feel like you're being singled out, or just not treated fairly, there's favoritism. You're trying to address that kind of an issue that isn't necessarily like representing everybody, but it's, hey, I personally have a problem and I want somebody else to come in and help me mitigate or mediate this problem. Does a union help with that stuff too?
Kind of. So a union contract doesn't necessarily create or maintain policy for a company. However, it can say, hey, this policy is not within the laws, or, not within our rights as employees. So we can grieve those policies, but they don't, the union and the contract isn't say, policy number one means that the director has an open door policy. Policy number two is you're going to wear your boots on both feet. It doesn't do any of that. But if like policy number three is you're going to wear your right boot on your left foot, you can be like, hey, that doesn't make any sense. So we go and talk to our management, and they're like, I don't care. We said do it. So then at that point, we can grieve that and say, hey, this isn't really a great policy, and we would like to affect change on it. But it does not create or maintain policy for the company itself.
So it's strictly dealing with, I'd say, larger scale, like policy related conflicts, not so much, hey, like I'm having a personal issue with this supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
I want someone to come in and help me work with this. It's truly just, hey, is this a policy matter or not? Cool, we can deal with this. If not, figure it out.
Right. So if the supervisor's stepping outside of a policy, they're overly targeting you for mandatories, or they're not doing everything that they should be doing by the contract that for mandatories, or I'm trying to think of a recent example. Literally anything of that nature, just people managing side of things. If they're not doing the right thing and there's something that can be applied to that for the union contract, then that's where we would go and fight that, and hope to affect change on the other side, on the more personal side of things. That's probably a really bad explanation, but there are policies that derive from union contracts. So, for example, our union contract very clearly spells out like our pay scale, our contracted pay scale, the sliding scale with like years of service, things like that. It spells out holidays and what holidays are considered holidays, and what time from this time to this time you're going to get paid, or this is how you can call off, or this is how many hours you need to have, and blah 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 blah. So but there are also things on the other side that management have to abide to as well. So while it doesn't make the general operations policy for a company, there are policies that are derived from that at the larger scale. So if the management supervisors and or whoever are stepping outside of those, even the ones that are derived from the union, then we have the ability to grieve those processes. So generally, anything and everything that you come across that's non-clinical will fit into that contract somewhere.
Another topic that you and I that has been brought up and that we've kind of tiptoed on before. I want to say it was one of those like late night lives that we were on, and it was like midnight, or at least in my time. I'm just like, I'm here, but I'm going to bed. Sorry. But specifically AI, because and how AI affects us, because I'm a little bit of an AI nerd, and
hmm
I currently am running a software startup that is going to be leaning very heavily on it. I'm curious your take on all of it in general, because this is a fascinating topic, but also what you see the impacts, good, bad, and otherwise, being on EMS.
Yeah, so it's a topic. I think I remember this discussion we had. It was months ago. Holy cow!
Yeah.
Look how far we've come since then, right?
Right.
I think AI is the future, whether we do or don't like it. Now, I love AI because it just, if you use it the right way and use it for what it is, it's there to make your life easy. I understand both sides of the card, right? There are lots of people out there that are really scared of AI because of whatever reason, patient privacy, errors, things like that. Because in the end, AI can only put out what it's fed in. Eventually, it will be a true artificial intelligence where it can learn its own things. And it, at a point, does now. And for the record, I'm no AI expert. I'll just give you my experiences with it. My experience at this point with it in medicine is, I'll say minimum, but I won't say robust either. So marginal, I guess, would be a good word for it. We use it for our charting, and the cat's still out of the bag, whether I love it or hate it. But one thing that it does do is it makes charting a lot faster, but it takes some work on my end too, because I can't just go through and, click through an assessment of, hey, not assessed, or, hey, no, nothing found. I have to go in and actually put in pertinent negatives and things like that. And that's probably one of the hardest things for people to adjust to. They're used to clicking on things like, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, no abnormalities, boom, 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 boom. Well, no abnormalities is great. And that's an easy way to get through, but let's, on a patient that may have fallen, I can say, hey, they have no pain, they have no tenderness, they have no swelling, instead of just putting no abnormality. So those pertinent positives will always be there, but the pertinent negatives are what help the AI generate the narrative and paint a good picture. One thing that the AI is lacking for us at the moment is it does not build that scene picture, your scene size up. It doesn't really build that picture of, hey, this is a really disheveled house. This patient is very sick, but their house is also disheveled and not clean, and their clothes look like they haven't been washed or showered in months. All of those are pertinent positives or pertinent things in the chart, not because we're trying to judge anybody, but sick people with dirty clothes on are going to get sicker, and it's the unfortunate part. And those are things in my mind as a paramedic that I like to paint that picture. Or if there's a dangerous situation and we had to forego a treatment for the fact of safety, I can put that in my chart, but AI does not generate that because AI is not there. They don't have my eyeballs in my brain. They're not scanning the room like I am. You know what I mean? So it's got its pluses and minuses. The very subjective information, great, putting it in there. Your vital signs, your treatments, things like that. In my world, it does not put like, hey, I gave this treatment to this patient. This is how they reacted to it. So I kind of have to go in and adjust that stuff too, to give a really true picture. It can say, oh, the patient was improved after this treatment because you click the box that says the patient was improved, right? But improved is also relative. Like, hey, I'll put in patient was improved because they told me, like, I feel better after this medication, or their heart rate came down or whatever. So improved is the generic term, but then, I like to go and expand on that. So in the end, it takes my charting from, on a true, like, complex ALS call from 45 minutes to an hour to really get a good chart done. It'll take it down to 20 minutes or less, because you're just clicking buttons, and you pop the generate narrative, and it puts all that stuff in there, and then you just go back and adjust things. Again, cat's still out of the bag for me. Not whether I love it or I hate it, but it does help with a guy in a busy service that has multiple charts a night to do, or has those nights where the college kids are popping downtown and all that kind of stuff, and you're going out on these multiple calls all night long, and you're running behind on charts. For now, I'm 50-50 on it, but it's been a really great tool to help. And I think people need to just remember that it's a tool to help. It's just like anything else. We don't use one tool specifically to treat the entire patient. And that's the way I always present it to my people, is like, use it as a tool and not the end all be all.
Which for your personal use, which models do you tend to lean on the most?
For personal outside of work?
Yeah.
I use two of them. Mainly I use Gemini. It's the Google built-in one, and my thought process behind that. And everybody's in the chat GPT world and those kind of stuff. And Google Gemini pulls everything that's ever put into Google. You think about how robust that can be, where ChatGPT is within the last 5 years becoming a thing. So it's got 5 years worth of information, where Google has 30 years plus of information. And so I tend to use Google Gemini. But if I'm working on something really intricate or important, I'll go to a couple different ones just to kind of compare them. What's the other one that I use? Notebook LM. That one is really good for when I'm going to actually do research on things. So we obviously have had a recent friend that, cited a lot of studies. But, you know,
Studies.
yeah, so my opinion on that is we all know that guy, right? Like, studies show, I'm like, show it to me, because
Yeah.
we can see right through that. Anyway, but Notebook LM, you can put in a prompt and it will find those published medical studies or something like that. And the nice part is you can tell it to take all of those studies and give you cliff notes, and it boom, about 14, 15 seconds, it'll give you all of that. But then the other really cool part of it, will I ever use this feature ever? No. But you can take, let's say you've got a lengthy study that would take you hours and hours and hours to read. You can click on one button with Notebook LM and an AI generates a podcast talking about that. And it sounds like real people just chatting about it.
Damn.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So you
Ah.
can literally take a medical study and listen to it as a podcast, AI generated, and it sounds like real voices and things like that. And it can do a few other things like make a test on it. It can make, all kinds of stuff. So Notebook LM is where I do my like pen and paper research stuff or like use it to help with that. But Gemini is my usual go-to for creating things, or like, hey, make this not sound like an asshole before I send it to my you know what I mean? Like, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Notebook LM is incredibly powerful, and I can send you the link for that, and you'll be probably blown away with how the podcast side of it goes, because I do that all the time. I watch you guys all the time on like TikTok or on social media and stuff like that. Or EMS Avenger is one of my favorites, and he'll put some like intriguing message up on there like, I never thought about that, and then he'll cite some study, and I'll be like, okay, so I go look that study up in Notebook LM, and I click that podcast button, and then I go to work just listening to the podcast, getting all the information about it.
That's cool. I heard generally of those kinds of tools. I think I've heard Notebook LM mentioned. Is it like is it its own LLM, or is it tied into one of the other ones?
No, it's not. It's its own thing.
Okay. Because I normally so yeah, my first exposure obviously was Chat GPT, but I couldn't tell you why. There was just a part of me that's like, I don't trust this. I don't know why. Like, I don't trust Chat GPT fully. And the more I've been doing, honestly, and the more I learn about Sam Altman and everything else, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm kind of, mm.
Well, again,
I'll dip into it, but I don't trust it.
yeah, again, AI can only put out what's put into it. So when I look at
Yeah.
ChatGPT over the last 5 years, and I'm using 5 years as a really bad example. I have no idea how long it's been alive, but if I were to put some sort of research into ChatGPT, that could obviously be recalled with certain prompts. But you could take the same subject and you could put whatever you want in there. Hey, a heart is shaped like a triangle, and whatever, and you put that in there, and at some point, ChatGPT is going to recall that for someone. Where I think that Google has more supported research. All the things can be searched up on Google versus having to filter through ChatGPT and go through that extra step. So, is it the best one out there? Probably not. Even Gemini, it has its limitations, but it just, to me, in my own brain, with no research to back it up, it just makes more sense that Google has that, like, the entire internet at its fingertips. You know what I mean?
Well, and I'm still trying to find a solid grasp on the leaderboard and what is the most up to date information. But Google just recently has overtaken ChatGPT in a number of areas of performance, both in the video visual stuff, but also in its overall research capabilities and accuracy. It has outstripped OpenAI. I I go back and forth. I actually pay for I pay for Grok, which Grok I've found overall it's a really good workhorse. It will do
Mhm.
whatever you want, and accuracy tends to be pretty good. It's very creative. It is the most creative one I've ever seen. The amount of
I like
stuff,
Grok.
dude, the amount of stuff that thing can just pull out of its ass is incredible.
Mhm.
Now, for research, I tend to use Perplexity. And the only reason I have the pro version of that is Venmo decided to gift me a whole year subscription of it. So I was like, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
free
I'll take
shit's
it.
free shit, man.
Dude, it's Perplexity, I think, was built very much like Notebook LM. It's meant to be more of an academic
Mhm.
product, not so much doing all the other random shit. But it's really good about inline source quoting. So you can see line by line what it's referring to. Grok does better summaries, I feel. Perplexity's pretty good, but Grok does gives you a better Reader's Digest version of stuff.
Mhm.
Overall, that's my opinion. They're pretty well outdoing OpenAI as well, which is ironic because Elon actually started OpenAI. but got forced out by Altman, which is a whole other fun side. I'll
I have no
save
idea
that for
about
another
any of that
day.
because I don't care.
I enjoy learning about these people. Like, love them, like them, love them, hate them, whatnot. I find them fascinating, and you learn a lot about business when you study these kinds of people, good, bad, or
Hmm.
otherwise. But anyway, we can go off on that tangent. I found Grok is very good at medicine.
Mm.
Not just, hey, quote me these studies, but I can feed it a symptom list. It will spit back differentials back at me, and I'm like, whoa, this is fucking spot on.
Yeah,
So good.
one of my very, very close friends is one of the hospitalists for the level one trauma center that I work close to. I used to work for, but now I'm back on the road. And him and I can have conversations about this for hours and hours and hours. And he's kind of the one that got me onto the medicine side of AI. And he's like, dude, just look at this. And he's like, because he has, the hospital's so big at nighttime, and he's the only hospitalist in the hospital. He can have 100 plus patients all to himself, and that's not including intensive. That's not including all the other specialty stuff. And he's like, I can take what I already know about the patient, and then I can say they're presenting now this way versus this way, just give me some ideas. And he's like, it never will replace my true brain or my true,
Yeah.
medical literacy. It never will. But if it helps prompt my brain in a different direction or gives me something else to consider, and he is so in love with it, and he uses it on every single patient, not to diagnose, because that would be irresponsible, but to assist in prompting his brain one way or another so that he can affect diagnosis or affect treatment. And he's like, oh, maybe this is something I hadn't considered with this specific patient. For example, he had one, I think a cholecystitis or something like that. And he just used that to bring up a few more differentials. So then he's like, it didn't affect my treatment one way or another, but it affected my testing and my investigation of this patient. And I ordered a few more things just to rule some things out. And he said, that's when you're dealing with 100 patients a night, and then you got the ER calling you, trying to admit more patients, or all of a sudden the intensivist is trying to step down people at midnight.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot of work for one man, and he does fantastic at it, but it's a lot of work. In his side of things, in his world, which is much more intense than ours ever will be, he relies very heavily on it.
What do you see overall as the net positive impacts it would have on EMS? Because everybody's worried about getting replaced. We're not going to get replaced until the robots get better,
Mhm.
significantly better. Where do you see as the areas where it's going to most benefit us?
That's a great question. And it's very simply put in my mind. How many times do we have discussions about a bad call and what's the best time frame for us to recall that information and recall, we hear people talk about within 24 hours is the best time that your brain is processed and you can recall these bad calls and things like that. Well, that's great for debriefing, but we still have to chart this call. You know what I mean? And we still need to, excuse me, we still need to accurately portray what happened there in a non-biased way. And so charting that call within an hour or 2 hours after you just watched probably some of the most horrific things that you've ever seen happen, that's tough, because anybody who's ever been in that situation knows that when your adrenaline is dumping, you may not remember every single thing that's going on or every little piece of what's going on. So I think AI can help put that picture back together in your mind in those situations, because you may certainly be charting while you're grieving or charting while you're in that like holy shit mode, because that's our job, and we have to do that. We can't wait 24 or 48 hours to chart. So AI coming alongside us and being that partner that's like, hey, I know you're struggling, I got you, I'm going to remember this information because I'm a robot. That's
Yeah.
where I think that's where I think that it's really going to shine, in those types of situations. Certainly there's a much broader spectrum, but I mean, fuck, we've all been there where we cannot remember the details. Like, oh crap, what IV did I put in this person? And like, there was so much going on. I was freezing cold, and there's helicopters going around, and the firefighters are here, and the cops are trying to, and you're like, what did I do? I can't remember which leg I put this in. I drilled an IO, and I can't remember which leg. And it's totally natural. It's a natural thing, right? Because we're humans, and fight or flight is a real thing, and it's
Yeah.
totally natural. So we can take an unnatural thing or an unbiased and unemotional thing and allow it to be our partner in those situations.
I think too, because I know obviously people are going to abuse it and use it as a crutch.
Sure.
But I think though, if we build the tools in correctly and have people on board building those tools that also do the job, wink wink nudge nudge, might have something to do with what I'm doing. I see it as actually holding people more accountable, because how often do we just kind of like gloss over things that inadvertently cut corners, not like on critical stuff, but just we might miss little details. Oh, I forgot to check this, or oh, I forgot to write that down, or whatever. But you
I
have
think
something
you
that can
just
help
said,
you with that.
yeah, I think you just said the scary buzzword in our job, like be accountable to what you're doing. Let's let's take the the bad call side of things out of it, and I think I know where you're going with your thought. And it is, let's say you have AI recording what's going on scene or things like that and dictating, and everybody's so scared of that right now. And I'm like, for what? For what? You have cops running body cams. You have, everybody's doing it. It's already been filmed. So who cares? That robot person can dictate that information for you, but the accountability is, did I say or do something that I don't want anybody to find out about because I'm a lazy medic, or did I not do something because I'm a lazy medic? So that accountability piece is a big buzzword, and I think, to be very honest with you, that part is more scary than anything else with AI, because people tend to try, they want to cut corners and they want to get around things and this and that. So they can say whatever they want, but
Mhm.
you can see right through the bullshit and say, hey, are you really scared of AI and HIPAA compliance and this and that, or are you scared of getting called out because you're not doing your job?
Yep.
So that's the way I feel about it. I'm not gonna have any problem with that, because I can defend my actions whether I do something or don't do something, and I'm just not a lazy medic, or at least I try not
Yes.
to be. Everybody gets tired, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think that, and people are so much leaning on, well, is it HIPAA compliant, this and that. I'm like, who cares? Who cares? First of all, like, yes, it will be. It will
Yeah.
be. Duh. Duh. That's federal law. So take that off the plate. Are you really scared of that? Or are you really scared of getting called out on being a lazy medic? Because when you're out on the road and it's just you and your partner, your management's not looking at you. Your medical director's not looking at you. They only see what you put in your chart.
Well, I like to look at trends and what obviously EMS doesn't handle change well ever, but um I look back even just in the span of my career, how when I first got into this, video laryngoscopy was a new thing. It
Mm-hmm.
was not as mainstream as it is now. And even as it was rolling out, there was this general attitude of, well, that's cool, but I'm going to do it the old fashioned way first because that's just what I know.
Stupid.
Okay. And listen, I am not shitting on direct laryngoscopy.
No, not at all.
I can do a DL just as fast as anybody else. But one of, my later jobs in my career, that was honestly the most progressive service, one of the most progressive services in the state. Their philosophy was, why not do the thing that is the most advanced with the highest potential success rate the first time?
Mm-hmm.
Why not? Why not give that patient the best chance of success right out the gate?
Yeah,
And I think
because we have egos. So that's the
no,
only way to say it, right? I
no.
agree. And that conversation came out with the bougie versus stylet. Why would you not put a bougie down a throat? Because it has been shown to increase your success rate tenfold, you
Mm.
know? Same thing. And I'm going to age myself a little bit. You're like, oh, when I first came in, although video laryngoscopy, when I first came in, King Airway was a brand new thing.
Yeah, yeah. It was a few years in when I first got to it, but yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think AI is going to be the same thing. Can people use it as a cheat code to be lazy? Sure, but I think the net effect is it's going to make us more robust providers because even as someone who was experienced, who took their education seriously, who had a good education, I can't recall everything. There's no way for me to be on top of every single
Hell
possible
no.
differential out there. So having a partner that can augment my performance is beautiful because that only benefits the patient and I learn from it too.
How nice would it be to just be like, because how many times do you ask your partner, hey, what's the pediatric dosage for Ativan
Mhm.
or whatever? And you're just like, hey, Siri, what's the pediatric dosage for Ativan in our protocol? And it brings up our specific protocol and it spits it right back out at us. So great. When my hands are full, I don't have to go scrolling through a bunch of stuff.
Mhm.
So that would be incredible to be able to make it specific to our protocol and what our medical director wants us to give on our trucks versus the wide range of, because right now that's what you're going to get. Hey, Siri, what's the, sorry, Siri's mad at me.
It's
Hey,
listening.
yeah, it is. What's the dosage for amiodarone on a pediatric patient or something like that? And it spits out, well, pediatric patient, and it gives this wide range of things that you still have to kind of sort through, where you can have it pull up and read you out your algorithm of a respiratory failure patient or something like that. That would be incredibly helpful.
Well, and another thing too that I think has I don't think has been ignored. I just don't think people didn't think about it. Is active translation because yeah, we
Mm,
all think okay, Google Translate's kind of cool, but I can turn rock into voice mode, and me and the other person can converse with it.
Hmm.
Obviously not asking HIPAA sensitive stuff, but if I have a patient that I can't communicate with otherwise, and I need to know information about their complaint,
Hmm.
then why wouldn't I take advantage of that, of something that can talk to me
Absolutely.
and them in their native tongue? I mean, around here, you have Hispanics, you have Russians, you have Ukrainians, you have Germans, you have the whole gamut.
Yeah, and I agree. I speak one whole language. I've
Yeah,
dabbled in
barely.
other ones, but I speak, yeah, right. I speak one whole language, and that's it. I'm not bilingual. I'm not multilingual, anything like that. So I really struggle with those patients sometimes, and there are times that I feel bad. I'm like, I have to treat what I can see and not what the patient's telling me, and it's unfortunate because they might just be sitting there, but they might be at a 10 out of 10 pain or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's really unfortunate, and I try my hardest to find ways around that, but that would be, a smooth conversational AI of that nature, where it's like having that interpreter with you. Now, I do have that experience being overseas in the military, things like that. I obviously didn't speak Arabic, I didn't speak Pashto, Farsi, anything like that, but we had those interpreters, and after you kind of get used to the awkwardness of it, talking to this person, but this person is the one actually saying the words, you kind of get over that awkwardness of you can really have smooth conversations back and forth through the interpreter. And so to have AI be able to do that would be incredible.
Yeah. And I think it just exposes a general problem with software and EMS, which is you have software being developed for us, but not by us. There's so many tools, common sense tools, and things that AI could exponentially benefit.
Hmm.
Honestly, writing the narrative is the last thing I'm worried about.
Right. That's my only experience so far with it.
Well, I think it's ESO has it integrated.
Hmm.
So, like, I mean, it's cool. I can write my narratives in my sleep because
Same.
my structure has been the same for the last 15 years.
Right. Same.
So it's like, okay, cool. That's great. That's not what I want it for. I want it
Hmm.
for those moments where I'm having a brain fart and I'm second guessing myself on med math or other things.
Yeah.
Cause,
It's like
well,
having a personal scribe just sitting in the truck with you.
exactly.
Yeah.
I had a pediatric seizure call a couple weeks ago, and our Versed is 10 milligrams and 2 mLs per vial. Doing pediatric dosing out of that is a bitch and a half.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like
Hmm. Hmm.
so, like I'm in the middle of this. This kid's actively seizing, and I literally pulled out some paper and I'm writing the math down. I was like, okay, I think this is right. Pretty sure this is right. I was like, I'm not 100% sure. So like the school nurse and one of the other paramedics was there, and we're like, okay, yeah, this is the right math. Cool, let's go ahead and give it. But
Hmm.
like, because I don't do that every day. I'm not a ped magnet. Like I've given, pediatric Versed like 3 times in my entire career.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
for outlier stuff like that it's like, okay, I don't do this every day. I know it conceptually, but I need something in that moment where my recall may not be quite as quick. So I don't know.
I think
I,
I think that's exactly right, and I think that's the exact use that we need to really focus on versus what we are focusing right now. Is it HIPAA
yeah,
compliant? Yeah, it's going to be. Like,
yeah.
stop worrying about that, and let's figure out how it can help us,
It's
solve
a computer
problems.
program. It'll
Yeah.
it'll it'll do whatever you tell it to do. However you build
Hmm.
it, it will do it.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm with you. I'm not. I used to be scared of it. I used to be bothered by it, and now I'm just like, it's not going away.
Hmm.
I can't stop it. So might as well embrace it because it's coming regardless. It's
Yeah.
gonna affect us regardless.
Yeah. I was in the same boat, where I was like, but now I'm like, we're like, okay, like there's some real potential here to really, really affect change in our culture, in our
Mhm.
job, and in the way we treat our patients. And when it's all said and done, a machine using its brain versus me using my brain, it just is what it is. I mean, my brain is good and it's great, but it's not ever going to be an AI brain.
Nope,
You know?
nope, not at all. Not at all. I think the industry we've already see our industry morphing anyway. We're becoming more of a primary care entity anyway.
Hmm.
So we might as well just roll with it.
It's interesting that you say that. I was talking to a young basic last night. We were just coming to or from a call or whatever, and we were talking about, he's very young, and he's like, how long have you been doing this? I said, I'm coming up on year 17, I think, 16 or 17. And he's like, how did you get through your burnout? And I said, once I like, and I talked to him, like my burnout was during COVID. I was so burnt out. I didn't want to do this job anymore. I didn't, like, I literally looked at going back to school to do something outside of the medical field because I just didn't want to do it anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
I said it really changed for me once I understood that the calls are what they are, right? The people calling because they want a med refill at a level 1 trauma center is what it is. You know, it's still another time I got to leave the station and go take care of somebody. And I said once I figured that out, and the drunks and the psych patients and this and that, those ones that are just kind of the annoying calls, the emergencies, that's what we do. But the things in between and those primary care type calls, once I got in my head that that's part of my job, my burnout went away. And I,
Mm-hmm.
I still
Yeah.
come to work every day enjoying my job. I still, then I get tired and grumpy like anybody else. I'm like, but generally speaking, I'm going to do this till I retire now because I got over that and I just really came to terms with if you can't beat them, join them kind of thing. Just like you're saying there,
Yep. Yep.
it is what and it's not me selling out for anything. It's just me understanding my job and my career and where our job is progressing to. So once I got there now, like, I okay, got to go pick up another drunk college kid because I work in a college town.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. So just
Yeah.
my job, and I'll do this until I retire now instead of really wanting to get out of it.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd like to get out of it. The urgency is not there in the same way, not because of that. Like as far as the kinds of calls and such, yeah, sure, in the moment I may be a little irritated, but at the end of the day, like you said, if you can't beat them, join them, and
Hmm.
realizing that I can either beat my head into a rock over and over and over again, or I can accept it and focus on doing well in spite of it and
Hmm.
make the most of it.
Hmm.
And guess what? My days are so much better. I do my shit, I do my reports, I go home. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, right. And that just it does not bother me. I mean, during my burnout, I was very bothered at home, and it was affecting my home life and this and that. Now I'm just like, I get up, I go to work, I come home, and I go to work expecting to pick up the patients that don't need an ambulance. I expect to pick them up, and I get it. So I'm no longer angry about picking those patients up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on for everybody is don't be a grumpy bastard and just accept where you are and what's going on. Justin, it's good to see you again, buddy. We'll talk some
Yeah, man.
more and we'll I'll see you on Discord plenty for sure.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited for all that's going. Excited to have you in the Discord and kind of
Yeah,
chit
y'all
chatting
doing
and
good
hang out
things.
with everybody. So yeah, I appreciate that.
All right, buddy. Have a good night. Be safe.
Cool, man.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us on YouTube at Paramedic AF, or you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify at the Paramedic AF Show. You can catch up on the Daily Debrief, kind of a sub show within the Paramedic AF Show, or you can watch our full length episodes, including interviews and discussions on leadership, culture, personal wellness, mental health, everything related to daily life in EMS. Make sure you hit like and subscribe.